Jake Morrison stood in the center of the massive chamber, feeling smaller than he had ever felt in his life. The Galactic Council Hall stretched out before him like a metal canyon, with seats rising up on all sides. Hundreds of alien beings filled those seats, and most of them were staring at him with what he could only call amusement. The human ambassador straightened his shoulders and tried to look confident. Behind him sat the small Earth delegation, just 5 people representing the entire human race. Across the vast space, alien delegates lounged in chairs built for bodies nothing like his own. The Zephyrians were the worst. They sat in the highest seats, looking down at everyone else. Their skin looked like living crystal, shifting between blue and purple as light hit it. They were tall and thin, with 4 arms that moved like water. When they whispered to each other, it sounded like wind, chimes in a breeze. Jake knew they thought humans were pathetic. Near them sat the Korthic delegation. These aliens were the opposite of the Zephyrians, thick and heavily muscled, with gray skin that looked like armor. Their eyes glowed red in faces that reminded Jake of angry bulldogs. When they breathed, steam came out of holes in their necks. The Korthic had been conquering other worlds for thousands of years. So, said Vextar, the lead Zephyrian council member. His voice rang out clear and cold across the chamber. The humans wish to join our council as equals. He paused, and Jake heard something like laughter from the alien seats. How interesting. Jake stepped forward. Earth has met all the requirements for membership. Our technology may be different from yours, but we have achieved faster than light travel. We have colonies on 12 worlds. We have shown we can live in peace with other species. Peace, rumbled Greylinth, the Korthic War Master. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. You speak of peace because you are weak. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are simple. Your soldiers have no natural armor, no enhanced strength. He stood up, and Jake saw he was nearly 8 feet tall. You are soft prey, pretending to be predators. More sounds came from the alien delegates. Jake realized they were all laughing at him. His face burned with embarrassment, but he kept his voice steady. We may look different from you, Jake said, but we have survived on a dangerous world for millions of years. We have built a civilization that values both strength and cooperation. We ask only for the chance to prove ourselves as your equals. In the observation area above the main floor, Commander Lisa Park watched the scene with growing anger. She wore the blue uniform of the Earth Defense Fleet, and her hand rested on the small sidearm at her belt. Not that it would do any good. Here, the weapon was more ceremonial than useful. Lisa had fought in the border wars against the separatist colonies. She had seen what humans could do when they were pushed into a corner. These aliens had no idea what they were dealing with. They looked at humanity's peaceful nature and saw weakness. They looked at human technology and saw primitiveness. They were making a big mistake. The Council has reviewed your military capabilities, Vextar continued. Your largest warship masses only 800,000 tons. Our scout ships are larger. Your fastest vessel requires 6 days to travel between star systems. Our cargo haulers are faster. Your weapons use chemical explosives and simple energy beams. Added another alien, this one looking like a giant insect with too many legs. We have had such toys for millennia. Jake felt his temper rising, but forced it down. Getting angry would only prove their point about humans being emotional and unstable. We have never claimed to have the most advanced technology, but we learn fast and we adapt to any situation. Adapt? Greylinth laughed, a sound like an avalanche. There is no adaptation in real war. There is only strength or death. You have neither the weapons nor the will to survive in this galaxy. Perhaps, said Vextar in his musical voice, we can offer you protection. The Zephyrian Collective would be willing to oversee Earth's development. In time, perhaps in a few centuries, your species might be ready for limited membership. The chamber filled with approving sounds from the alien delegates. Jake realized they had planned this from the beginning. They never intended to treat humans as equals. They saw Earth as a resource to be managed, not a partner to be respected. "We appreciate your offer," Jake said carefully, "but Earth prefers to remain independent. We ask only for equal treatment under galactic law." "Equal treatment requires equal capability," Vextar replied. "You have neither." High above the chamber, in a space station orbiting the Council world, Captain Ryan Bell of the reconnaissance ship Aurora received an urgent message. He read it twice, then called his communications officer. "Send this to Earth Command immediately," he said. "Priority Alpha. Corthic fleet movements detected in the Outer Rim. Estimate 40 warships moving toward human space." The young officer, Lieutenant Dan Cooper, looked worried. "Should we warn the Council?" Ryan shook his head. "They would not care. To them, we are just another primitive species that needs to learn its place." Back in the Council chamber, Jake made one last attempt. "We understand that trust must be earned. Give us time to prove ourselves. We ask only for the chance." "Time," mused Greylinth. "Yes, you will have time. Time to learn what happens to weak species in this galaxy." He turned to address the other delegates. "The Corthic hegemony claims salvage rights to the human colonies. Their resources will be put to better use." The chamber erupted in alien voices, some approving, others expressing mild concern, but none objecting strongly enough to matter. Jake felt his heart sink as he realized what was happening. They were not just rejecting human membership. They were giving the Corthic permission to attack. "You cannot do this," Jake said, his voice rising despite his efforts to stay calm. "We are a peaceful species. We have harmed no one. Peace is a luxury for the strong," Vextar replied. "The weak must learn to serve or be replaced." As the Council session ended, Jake walked out with his small delegation. Behind them, the aliens continued their discussions, as if humanity had already ceased to exist. They spoke of resource allocation and territorial boundaries, dividing up human space like it was empty territory waiting to be claimed. Commander Lisa Park met Jake at the exit. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Not long," Jake replied. "Maybe weeks, maybe days. They think we are helpless." Lisa smiled, and it was not a nice smile. "Then they are about to learn something new about humans." Above them all, Captain Ryan Bell prepared his ship for a fast journey home. The Aurora was small and lightly armed, but she was fast. The aliens were right about human technology being primitive, but they had missed something important. Humans had always been good at making do with what they had. And when pushed into a corner, they fought with everything they possessed. The galaxy was about to learn that there was a difference between being peaceful and being weak. The Corthic wanted a war with primitives. Instead, they were going to get a war with humans. And humans, as the galaxy would soon discover, were very good at war. 3 months after the Galactic Council meeting, the mining colony on Kepler 442b was having a normal day. The red sun hung low in the purple sky, casting long shadows across the rocky landscape. Workers in environmental suits moved between the suits. Extraction sites, loading ore containers that would eventually feed Earth's growing industrial needs. Ben Carter, the colony administrator, was reviewing supply reports when the first warning came through. His communication device crackled with static, then cleared enough for him to hear Amy Rodriguez, the security chief. "Ben, we have ships coming in fast, not human ships." Ben dropped his tablet and ran to the observation deck. Through the reinforced glass, he could see 5 dark shapes dropping through the atmosphere. They were sleek and angular, nothing like the rounded human vessels. As they got closer, He could see weapon ports glowing red along their hulls. All civilians to the shelters, Ben announced over the colony-wide system. This is not a drill. Security teams to defensive positions. The Korthic ships landed hard, sending clouds of dust and rock flying. Ramps dropped from their bellies, and armored figures began pouring out. Even at a distance, Ben could see they were huge, at least 7 feet tall and covered in gray metal armor that seemed to be part of their skin. Amy Rodriguez was already moving her security team into position. She had 12 people under her command, all of them trained for dealing with accidents and minor disputes. None of them had ever faced real combat, especially not against aliens built for war. Stay in the tunnels, she told her team through their radio headsets. Use the mining equipment as cover. Make them come to us. The Korthic moved across the colony grounds like they owned the place. Their leader, Sub-War Master Krekval, pointed at buildings with one of his 4 arms while speaking in their harsh language. Soldiers began setting charges on the power station and the communications tower. They want to cut us off, Amy realized. Then, get everyone deeper into the mines. We are going to make this expensive for them. The fighting started when a Korthic soldier tried to force his way into the main shelter. Amy and 2 of her people were waiting behind a mining laser, a big industrial tool used for cutting through rock. When the alien rounded the corner, Amy triggered the laser. The beam cut through the Korthic's armor like it was paper. The alien went down with a sound like a steam engine exploding. His squad mates charged forward, firing energy weapons that left smoking holes in the tunnel walls. But the humans were ready. They had spent 3 months turning the mining complex into their home. They knew every tunnel, every side passage, every maintenance shaft. When the Korthic advanced down the main tunnel, humans popped up from side passages and hit them with mining charges, small explosives used for breaking up ore deposits. These tunnels are not on their maps, Ben said over the radio. He was coordinating civilian evacuation through passages that did not show up on any official survey. Keep them confused. Make them chase shadows. Sub-War Master Krekval was getting angry. His intelligence reports said this colony had minimal defenses. A few security. Guards with primitive weapons should have surrendered in minutes. Instead, his soldiers were taking casualties from opponents they could barely see. Bring up the heavy weapons, he ordered. Collapse these tunnels. Bury them all. But before his soldiers could set up their big guns, a new alarm sounded from the landing site. A human ship was coming down from orbit. Captain Ryan Bell brought the Aurora in fast and low, using the rocky hills to mask his approach. The reconnaissance ship was not built for combat, but it had been modified with extra armor and weapons during the tense months after the council meeting. Ryan knew he was outgunned, but he also knew something the Korthic did not expect. The Aurora came over the ridge at full speed, all weapons firing. The Korthic heavy cruiser was still on the ground, unloading troops and supplies. Its shields were down, and its weapons were not ready for air-to-air combat. Ryan's first missile volley hit the alien ship's engine section, sending flames and debris flying across the landing site. The second volley targeted the weapon mounts, turning them into twisted metal. Pull back to orbit, Ryan's weapons officer, Lieutenant Kate Morris, advised. We hurt them, but they still have superiority. No, Ryan said firmly. Those people down there are counting on us. We end this here. The Korthic cruiser was getting its systems back online. Its shields came up with a blue glow, and its remaining weapons swiveled toward the Aurora. Sub-War Master Krekval himself took control of the ship's main gun. Primitive humans, he snarled. You will learn the price of defying the hegemony. But Ryan Bell had one more surprise. Instead of running or trying to outfight the bigger ship, he did something no sane alien commander would consider. He aimed the Aurora directly at the Korthek cruiser and pushed his engines to maximum power. "All hands, brace for impact," Ryan announced to his crew. "This is going to hurt." The Aurora slammed into the alien ship's side at nearly 1,000 miles per hour. The sound of tearing metal echoed across the colony site. Both ships crumpled together in a ball of twisted wreckage, but Ryan had calculated the angle perfectly. The Aurora's bridge section, reinforced for this exact possibility, survived the impact. Sub-WARMASTER Kreckful was thrown across his command center as his ship died around him. Emergency systems screamed warnings about hull breaches and radiation. Leaks. Half his crew was dead or injured. The other half was trapped in the wreckage. Down in the tunnels. Amy Rodriguez heard the crash and knew what it meant. "The cavalry just arrived," she told her people. "Time to finish this." The remaining Korthek soldiers found themselves cut off from their ship and surrounded by angry humans who knew the territory better than they did. Some tried to fight their way back to the landing site. Others attempted to take hostages from the civilian shelters. None of it worked. The humans had spent 3 months learning to work together as a community. When the crisis came, they responded not as individuals, but as a group with a shared purpose. Miners used their tools as weapons. Engineers turned maintenance robots into mobile guards. Even the children helped by carrying messages through passages too small for adult humans. By the time the sun set, the battle was over. Sub-War Master Kreckval and most of his soldiers were dead or captured. The Korthek cruiser was a total loss. The Aurora was badly damaged, but repairable. Captain Ryan Bell stood in the colony's main hall, his uniform torn and his face covered with cuts from the crash. Around him, the colonists were treating wounded and starting repairs. Ben Carter was already making plans for better defenses. Amy Rodriguez was organizing patrols to watch for more alien ships. "We won," said Lieutenant Kate Morris, but she did not sound happy about it. "What happens when they send a bigger force?" Ryan looked out at the colonists working together to clean up the damage. These people had just faced their first alien attack, and they were not running away. They were getting ready for the next one. "Then we fight again," he said simply. "And we keep fighting until they learn to leave us alone." Word of the victory spread quickly through human space. The Galactic Council dismissed it as luck, a primitive species getting fortunate against a small Korthek patrol. They did not understand that luck had nothing to do with it. The humans had won because they refused to give up, even when facing superior technology. They had won because they worked together instead of following rigid command structures. Most importantly, they had won because they were willing to sacrifice for each other. The Korthek hegemony was not impressed by reports of the defeat. War Master Greylength himself declared that the next attack would be a full battle fleet. No more small patrols. No more underestimating the enemy. But Greylength was making the same mistake as the Galactic Council. He thought the problem was that humans had been lucky, or that his soldiers had been careless. He did not realize that human tactics were completely different from anything the galaxy had seen before. The war was just beginning, and neither side truly understood what they were getting into. War Master Greylength stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Fist, and watched the fleet assemble around him. 50 Korthek warships hung in space like deadly metal sharks, their hulls bristling with weapons. Behind them came support vessels, carrying troops, supplies, and the tools needed to strip a planet bare. The defeat at Kepler 442b had been a humiliation that echoed through Korthek space. Sub-War Master Kreckval's failure had made the hegemony look weak in front of the entire galaxy. That could not be allowed to continue. "Target confirmed," reported his sensor officer. "New Colorado system. 3 million human colonists. Industrial facilities across 4 major continents." Greylength nodded with satisfaction. This time there would be no mistakes. No single patrol ship facing desperate colonists in mining tunnels. This would be a proper demonstration of Korthik power. When the humans saw their industrial world burning, the rest of their colonies would surrender without a fight. In the new Colorado system, Admiral Kate Sullivan watched the enemy fleet drop out of hyperspace with grim determination. She had been promoted after the Kepler incident, given command of Earth's outer defense fleet with orders to protect the colonies at all costs. Her force looked pitiful compared to what was coming at them. 23 ships, most of them converted, cargo haulers and mining vessels. Only 5 were actual warships, and those were smaller than a single Korthik cruiser. The largest vessel in her fleet was the cargo ship New York, hastily fitted with armor plates and missile launchers. "Admiral," said her tactical officer, Commander Eric Stone, "enemy fleet is deploying into attack formation. We count 47. Combat vessels." Kate stared at the tactical display. The numbers were hopeless. Even if every human ship fought perfectly, they could not win a straight battle. But she had studied the reports from Kepler 442b, and she had learned something important. Humans did not need to fight fair. "All ships, execute Plan Delta," she ordered. "Make them come to us." The human fleet scattered like leaves in a wind. Instead of forming up for battle, they spread out across the system, using asteroids and debris fields for cover. The converted cargo ships looked like they were running away in panic. Neff watched the human fleet break apart and felt contempt. Cowards, they scatter like prey animals. All ships, pursue and destroy. Show them what happens when primitives challenge the hegemony. But Admiral Sullivan was not running. She was setting a trap. The first Korthik squadrons chased the fleeing human ships into the asteroid belt between New Colorado's 3rd and 4th planets. The space was full of rock chunks and metal debris from centuries of mining operations. Perfect cover for small, fast ships that knew the area well. Commander Eric Stone led the first ambush from his ship, the converted mining vessel Denver. When the Korthik ships entered the debris field, he triggered a chain of explosions that had been carefully placed weeks earlier. Mining charges hidden in asteroids went off in sequence, turning chunks of rock into deadly projectiles. "First blood to us," Eric reported as 2 Korthik destroyers disappeared in balls of fire and twisted metal. But the Korthik learned fast. They stopped chasing individual ships and began sweeping the asteroid field with long-range weapons, clearing paths through the debris. Their heavy cruisers had shields strong enough to shrug off most human weapons. The real battle began when Captain Maria Santos brought her civilian evacuation ships into the fight. These were passenger liners and colony transports, loaded with refugees from New Colorado cities. They should have been running for safety in the outer system. Instead, Maria led them straight into the heaviest fighting. "All evacuation ships, implement Phoenix Protocol," she ordered. The Phoenix Protocol was something no military textbook had ever described. As the evacuation ships approached Korthik battle groups, they ejected their cargo pods, containers supposedly, full of civilian supplies and personal belongings. The aliens ignored them, focusing on the armed human warships. That was a mistake. The cargo pods were actually loaded with industrial explosives, remote-guided and set to detonate on proximity. When they got close to Korthik ships, they turned into massive bombs that could crack even heavy armor. "Impossible," snarled Greylength as he watched another of his cruisers die. "They are using civilian ships as weapons. They sacrifice their own people." His intelligence officer checked the sensors again. "No, sir. Life signs show the evacuation ships are still carrying full passenger loads. They are fighting while protecting their civilians." That was something Greylength could not understand. In Korthik culture, Civilians were resources to be protected or abandoned as needed. But these humans were asking their non-combatants to share the risks of battle. And somehow it was working. The turning point came when Admiral Sullivan herself led the final assault. Her flagship, the converted cargo hauler Liberty, had been damaged in the first exchange of fire. Her engines were failing, and her weapons were nearly gone. Any sensible commander would have withdrawn to fight another day. Instead, Kate Sullivan aimed her dying ship at the Iron Fist and gave an order that would echo through human space for generations. All ships ramming speed. Make every shot count. The Liberty accelerated toward the Korthik flagship, her hull glowing red from damage and overheated systems. Around her, the surviving human ships followed suit. They had run out of missiles, and their energy weapons were failing, but they still had mass and velocity. Greylinth watched in horror as the primitive humans turned their ships into guided projectiles. This was not warfare as he understood it. This was madness. No logical species would sacrifice valuable resources in suicide. Attacks. But the humans were not being logical. They were being human. The Liberty struck the Iron Fist just below the bridge, her cargo bays full of mining explosives detonating on impact. The Korthik flagship broke in half, its shields overloaded, and its armor shattered. Greylinth died still, trying to understand how primitives had defeated. Superior technology. The battle ended with the human fleet scattered and broken, but still fighting. The Korthik had won in the sense that they controlled the battlefield and could claim New Colorado. But their victory had cost them 23 ships and thousands of warriors. More importantly, they had failed to break human morale. As Korthik troops landed on New Colorado, they found cities already evacuated and industrial facilities rigged to self-destruct. The colonists had not waited to be rescued. They had saved themselves. The last transmission from New Colorado came from a young girl named Jenny Walsh, broadcasting from a hidden shelter as Korthik soldiers searched the ruins above her. "This is New Colorado calling all human ships," she said in a clear, steady voice. "We are not beaten. We will not surrender. Tell Earth that we remember who we are." The message spread through human space like wildfire. Within hours, every colony, every ship, every human settlement had heard the words of a 10-year-old girl who refused to be afraid of alien conquerors. On Earth, the government declared total war. Not just military mobilization, but the complete commitment of human civilization to the fight. Factories retooled to build weapons. Schools began teaching tactical planning alongside mathematics. Even children learned to maintain equipment and support the war effort. The aliens had won the Battle of New Colorado, but they had lost something much more important. They had given humanity a reason to unite, and they had shown the galaxy that humans would fight to the death before accepting defeat. Kate Sullivan's body was never found in the wreckage of the Liberty, but her final order became this motto of the new Human Defense Force: make every shot count. The Korthik had wanted to teach humanity a lesson about power. Instead, they had learned something about the human spirit that would haunt them for the rest of the war. Humans could be killed, but they could not be broken, and that made them the most dangerous enemy the galaxy had ever seen. General Alex Harper stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching as Earth transformed itself into a war machine. Through the observation windows, he could see the construction yards where civilian ships were being converted into warships. Cargo haulers became troop transports. Passenger liners grew armor plating and missile launchers. Even luxury yachts were being fitted with weapons. It had been 6 months since New Colorado fell, and humanity had changed completely. The message from young Jenny Walsh had sparked something that surprised even Earth's leaders. Every human colony, every space station, every settlement had volunteered for the war effort. There were no protests, no peace movements, no calls for surrender. Humanity had found unity in the face of extinction. "General," said his aide, Lieutenant Colonel Nancy Price, "the Mars factories report completion of the first 100 Phoenix class destroyers. The moon shipyards have finished converting 200 civilian vessels. We will have a fleet." Alex nodded, but his expression remained grim. Numbers alone would not win this war. The Korthik still had better technology, heavier ships, and the support of other alien species who feared human expansion. But humans had learned something important from their defeats. They did not need to match alien technology. They needed to use it differently. Dr. Helen Foster was working on that problem in her laboratory beneath the Antarctic ice. She had been studying captured Korthik technology for months, not trying to copy it, but trying to understand how alien minds approached warfare. "The problem is not their weapons," she explained to her team of engineers and scientists. "The problem is how they think. Look at this battle cruiser design. It is perfect for fighting other Korthik ships. Strong shields, heavy armor, predictable weapon placement. But it assumes the enemy will fight the same way." Her assistant, Dr. Mark Thompson, pulled up tactical displays from the Battle of New Colorado. "Our ships did not fight the way they expected. We used civilian vessels as weapons. We turned cargo containers into bombs. We sacrificed valuable resources for tactical advantage." "Exactly," Helen said with excitement. "They optimize for efficiency. We optimize for adaptability. Their strength is also their weakness." The first test of human adaptability came at Regulus Prime, a Korthik staging area where they were gathering forces for another assault on human space. Commander Tony Chun led the attack with a fleet that looked nothing like a traditional military force. His flagship was the former cruise ship Golden Gate, now bristling with weapons and armor. Around it sailed converted colony ships, mining vessels, research stations, and even a luxury casino that had been turned into a mobile command center. To alien observers, it looked like a refugee fleet that had lost its way. That was exactly what Tony wanted them to think. "All ships maintain civilian signatures," he ordered as they approached the Korthik base. "Look scared. Look desperate. Make them think we are running away." The Korthik commander at Regulus Prime, Sub-War Master Thokran, watched the approaching human ships with amusement. Intelligence reports said this was a refugee convoy from one of the outer colonies, probably carrying valuable civilians who could be sold as slaves. "Send 2 patrol squadrons to intercept," he ordered. "Capture what you can, destroy the rest." But when the Korthik ships moved to intercept, the human fleet revealed its true nature. The refugee ships suddenly accelerated to combat speed, their hidden weapons coming online. The cruise ship Golden Gate launched a barrage of missiles that had been concealed in what looked like passenger cabins. More importantly, the human ships did not fight like military vessels. They swarmed around the Korthik patrols like angry insects, using their smaller size and greater numbers to overwhelm alien shields and armor. When Korthik reinforcements arrived, they found the patrol squadrons destroyed and the human fleet already attacking the main base. "Impossible," Thokran snarled as he watched human soldiers pour out of ships that were supposed to be carrying civilians. "How many troops do they have?" The answer was terrifying from a Korthik perspective. Every human ship carried fighters. Not just professional soldiers, but miners who knew how to use explosives, engineers who could sabotage alien equipment, even teachers and shopkeepers who had learned basic combat skills. The entire human population had become a military force. Dr. Helen Foster's research proved its worth when human boarding parties reached the Korthik command center. Instead of trying to operate alien equipment, they simply destroyed it with charges that Helen had designed specifically to disrupt Korthik technology. Within hours, the base was useless to the aliens. But the most shocking part came when the battle was over. The humans offered medical care to wounded Korthic prisoners. They shared food and water. They even tried to communicate, asking questions about Korthic culture and explaining human customs. "Why do you help us?" asked a captured Korthic officer. "We are your enemies." Commander Tony Chun, his uniform torn and his face covered with battle scars, looked at the alien with genuine confusion. "You are wounded. We help wounded people. That is what humans do." Word of the strange human behavior spread through Korthok. Military channels. Some officers dismissed it as weakness. Others began to wonder if humans might be reasoned with. A few even began to question whether the war was necessary. The captured Korthek base yielded something more valuable than territory. The humans found complete intelligence files on alien military deployments, battle plans, and most importantly, the location of the Nexus, the strategic hub that controlled hyperspace routes throughout the galaxy. General Alex Harper studied the intelligence reports with growing excitement. The Nexus was heavily defended, considered impossible to attack. But the aliens were thinking like aliens. They expected attacks to come from other organized military forces following predictable patterns. They did not expect humans. "This is our chance," Alex told the assembled fleet commanders. "The aliens think we are a minor threat that can be contained. They see our losses at New Colorado and believe we are broken. They have no idea what we are really capable of." Admiral Lisa Park, promoted after her service in the Outer Defense Fleet, raised a concern. "The Nexus is defended by ships from a dozen different species. We will be outnumbered 20 to 1. "Good," Alex replied with a smile that did not reach his eyes. "Let them bring everything they have. We will show the galaxy what happens when you threatened humanity." The preparation for the Nexus assault took months. Human shipyards worked around the clock, building vessels that incorporated lessons learned from every battle. These ships looked nothing like alien designs. They were smaller, faster, and built around human strengths rather than trying to match alien technology. More importantly, they were crewed by people who had something the aliens could not understand. Every human in the fleet had heard Jenny Walsh's final transmission from New Colorado. They had seen the recordings of Admiral Kate Sullivan's sacrifice. They fought not just for victory, but for the memory of everyone they had lost. Captain Ryan Bell, recovered from his injuries at Kepler 442b, commanded one of the new destroyers. As he watched the massive human fleet assemble for the assault, he thought about how much had changed since the first alien attacks. "They thought we were weak," he said to his crew. "They thought we would break when they showed us their power. They never understood that making us angry was the worst mistake they could make." The fleet that departed for the Nexus carried 300 ships and nearly 1 million human beings. Soldiers and civilians, military personnel, and volunteers, all united by a single purpose. They were going to hit the aliens where it hurt most, and they were going to do it in a way no species in galactic history had ever attempted. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was not technology, or numbers, or superior firepower. It was the simple fact that humans never gave up, never stopped fighting, and never forgot their friends. The Battle of the Nexus would prove that lesson in ways that would echo through galactic history for generations to come. The Nexus hung in space like a metal city, its massive structure controlling the hyperspace routes that connected the entire galaxy. Around it floated the largest fleet ever assembled, over 2,000 warships from 12 different alien species, all united in their determination to crush the human threat once and for all. Admiral Kate Sullivan, who had survived the destruction of her ship at New Colorado in an escape pod, stood on the bridge of the new flagship Defiance. Through the viewscreen, she could see the enemy fleet spreading out like a wall of metal and death. Every ship was larger than anything in the human fleet. Every weapon was more advanced than human technology. "Final count, Admiral," reported her tactical officer, Commander Eric Stone. 2,047 enemy ships. "We have 312. Kate nodded calmly. The numbers were exactly what they had expected. The aliens had brought everything they could spare, thinking that overwhelming force would finally break human resistance. They were about to learn that humans did not think about warfare the same way. "All ships, execute Formation Omega," Kate ordered. "Time to show them what we learned." The human fleet did not advance in traditional battle formation. Instead, they scattered across space in what looked like chaos. Small groups of ships moved independently, each following different approach vectors. To alien observers, it appeared that the humans had panicked and lost coordination. That was exactly what Kate wanted them to think. Aboard the alien command ship, a massive Zephyrian dreadnought called Crystal Throne, Fleet Commander Vexstar watched the human approach with satisfaction. Finally, these primitives would learn their place in the galactic order. "All ships, maintain formation," he ordered in his musical voice. "Let them come to us. Their disorder will be their downfall." But the human disorder was actually the most sophisticated battle plan ever attempted. Each group of ships had specific targets and timing. Captain Ryan Bell led one squadron toward the station's shield generators. Commander Tony Chun targeted the communication arrays. Captain Maria Santos brought her converted civilian ships toward what appeared to be the least defended section of the enemy fleet. The battle began when the aliens opened fire at maximum range, expecting to destroy most of the human fleet before it could close to effective distance. Energy beams and missiles filled space with deadly light. Several human ships disappeared in balls of fire, but the rest kept coming. "Their formation makes no sense," reported the Korthik tactical officer. Aboard Greylinth's replacement flagship, they spread out their forces. They cannot concentrate firepower. What the aliens did not understand was that humans were not trying to win a traditional space battle. They were trying to reach the Nexus station itself, and they were willing to sacrifice anything to get their Captain Ryan Bell's squadron reach the shield generators first. His ships were all converted mining vessels, designed to work in dangerous environments. When alien fire damaged their hulls, they kept flying. When their weapons failed, they used mining equipment as improvised weapons. All ships ramming speed. Ryan ordered as his squadron approached the massive shield projectors. "Make it count." The converted mining ship Denver struck the first generator at full velocity, her cargo holds full of mining explosives. The explosion tore a hole in the station's defenses that was visible from across the battlefield. Ryan's other ships followed, each one targeting a different part of the shield network. Within minutes, the Nexus station's shields began to flicker and fail. Commander Eric Stone led the second wave, targeting the station's weapon batteries. His ships were smaller and faster, darting between the massive alien dreadnoughts like fighter craft. When the aliens tried to track them, they found targets that moved unpredictably, changing course at random intervals. "They fight like madmen," complained a hegemony captain as his ship's weapons failed to lock onto the human vessels. No pattern, no logic. That was the point. Human tactics had evolved beyond alien understanding, where alien fleets moved in careful formations and followed established doctrines. Humans improvised constantly. They used damaged ships as decoys, turned retreating vessels into attack platforms, and employed tactics that risked their own forces to maximize enemy casualties. The turning point came when Captain Maria Santos brought her civilian ships into the heart of the alien fleet. The aliens hesitated to fire on what appeared to be refugee vessels, giving the humans precious seconds to get close. But these were not refugees. They were volunteers, who had signed up knowing they might not survive. Teachers and shopkeepers, farmers and factory workers, all of them trained for this moment. Phoenix Protocol, all ships, Maria ordered. The civilian vessels suddenly accelerated to ramming speed, each one targeting a different alien capital ship. But instead of simple suicide attacks, they executed a plan that Dr. Helen Foster had spent months developing. As the human ships closed with their targets, they ejected thousands of small pods, each one containing a human volunteer and enough explosives to cripple an alien vessel. The pods were too small for alien point defense systems to track, and they moved too unpredictably for automated weapons. The result was devastating. Across the alien fleet, capital ships began exploding from within as human volunteers activated their charges in critical systems. Engine rooms, weapon magazines, command centers, all targeted by people who had given their lives to strike back at humanity's enemies. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched the alien fleet begin to crumble and felt a mixture of pride and sorrow. So many good people were dying to make this possible, but their sacrifice was working. All remaining ships, assault the Nexus directly, she ordered. And this? The final phase of the battle was fought inside the station itself. Human troops poured through the breaches created by the ramming attacks, but instead of trying to capture the facility, they began placing charges throughout its structure. Commander Eric Stone led the assault on the hyperspace field generators, the massive machines that controlled travel throughout the galaxy. His team included not just soldiers, but the engineers who understood how the alien technology worked. "We are not here to destroy it," Eric explained to his people as they moved through the station corridors. "We are here to change it." Dr. Helen Foster's research had revealed something important about the Nexus. The hyperspace field generators could be overloaded to create a cascade effect that would temporarily disable hyperspace travel throughout the region. It would trap the alien fleet and give humanity time to negotiate from a position of strength. The aliens fought desperately to protect their prize, but they were facing an enemy that fought by different rules. Human soldiers used the station's own systems against its defenders, turning maintenance robots into weapons and using the artificial gravity to create tactical advantages. When Eric Stone finally reached the main control room, he found it defended by Vexstar himself. The Zephyrian commander stood over the controls, his crystal skin glowing with rage. "You cannot win," Vexstar said in his musical voice. "Even if you destroy this station, we will build another. You are still outnumbered. You are still primitive." Eric looked at the alien commander and smiled. "You still do not understand. We are not trying to destroy the station. We are trying to control it." He activated the charges his team had placed throughout the facility. But instead of explosions, the devices created electromagnetic pulses that overloaded the hyperspace generators without destroying them. The cascade effect rippled outward, creating a hyperspace storm that trapped every ship in the system. "Now we talk," Eric said simply. The battle of the Nexus ended not with total victory, but with a stalemate. That changed everything. The alien fleet was trapped, unable to leave the system. The human fleet was battered, but still fighting. And for the first time in galactic history, a primitive species had fought the combined might of advanced civilizations to a standstill. In the aftermath, as rescue ships from both sides worked to save survivors, Ambassador Jake Morrison returned to the Galactic Council chambers. But this time, he did not request membership. The Council offered it immediately, along with apologies for their previous treatment of humanity. "We underestimated you," Vexstar admitted as he stood trial for war crimes. "We saw your peaceful nature and assumed it meant weakness. We saw your diverse tactics and called them primitive. We did not understand that your greatest strength was your refusal to be like us." The war ended not with conquest, but with understanding. The galaxy learned that strength came not from superior technology or rigid military doctrine, but from the willingness to adapt, to sacrifice for others, and to never give up hope. Admiral Kate Sullivan, promoted to head the new Joint Defense Command, watched as human and alien children played together in the first integrated colony. The future would bring new challenges, but humanity had earned its place among the stars. They had been underestimated as weak. They had proven themselves strong, and the galaxy would never be the same.